We are joined now by Yahoo Finance columnist Rick Newman, and that means it, of course, is time for the Trumpometer. So, Rick, let's just kind of go through the story for this week in Trump's world as it relates to the economy. Certainly there was a lot going on. There was always a lot going on when it comes to the president, a lot going on in markets. How'd you see it?
Panicky president. That's what I noticed this week. So we had the 2-hour bond yield inversion, and Trump starts kind of going crazy, treating it's the Fed's fault, it's the news media's fault. We do not have a recession yet. We are not in a recession right now. Trump is acting as if we are, and this is worrisome. What if we actually did land in a recession? Would Trump actually put any effort into trying to fix it, or would he just spend all day trying to figure out who he can blame other than himself? So he's kind of freaking out, and we're not even there yet. Well,
and when we see reports that he's calling up the heads of banks just because the stock market is down, I find the whole management of the stock market now, it's really taking on a life of its own, in that market participants know that if stocks go down, Larry Kudlow is going to go on CNBC and talk the market back up. Donald Trump is going to press on Stephen Mnuchin. He's going to call up people he knows from New York City to say what's going on here. And it seems like it's a little bit, he's kind of losing the plot a little bit, perhaps, right?
Yeah, on one hand, thank God for the stock market, because it is the one corrective here. And it could be the one thing that actually keeps Trump from going full-on tariffs with regard to China. And remember, he said he would go as high as 45% on all imports from China, which probably would induce a recession for sure. But on the other hand, I think there's a false sense of confidence with Trump and his team. They have been able to talk the stock market back up so far. Think about what's going to happen when they can't talk up the stock market. The stock market doesn't always listen to the president. And if we are heading toward a recession, that means almost for sure we will get in a scenario where we will have a bear market down 20% or more. There won't be a thing Trump can do about it except wait it out. And of course, we know he is going to blame everybody under the sun, other than himself.
Rick, how alarming is it, that Washington Post report where the administration has not planned for a recession yet?
That doesn't sound good, but if you think about, we talked about this morning, when you do have a recession, it's not presidential policy or executive action that is the normal course of action, right? It's fiscal policy, which is Congress passing laws to stimulate spending, and it's monetary policy, which is the Fed cutting rates and whatever other kind of creative voodoo they can pull out. If we did have a real recession, that could actually be a trigger for infrastructure spending. We know that's something Trump favors and Democrats favor. If we were to get there, that's something they could pull off. Of course, we have much bigger deficits now than we should have in what is a growing economy. They should be going down. Instead, they're going up to $1 trillion a year, more than that. So at some point, we could get to the point where the federal government's borrowing power isn't what it used to be, and there could be concerns about the debt, but that is not a problem today.
Well, we know what the response is going to be to a recession. It's going to be cut stuff, right? That's the American response to recession over the last 20, 30 years. The impulse, the impulse from the top is, get rid of stuff.
That's not going to happen. That is not what happens in reality.
That's what happened in the financial crisis.
What about the stimulus bill? That was $900 billion.
It was half the size. Is the half the size that people wanted it to be, and then the next budget required automatic cuts. Right? 3 years later, we're running a surplus.
Right, but in reality, sure, the conservatives always want to cut taxes and then there's no money left to spend on anything. But in a recession, the political reality is you have to do something. And if you don't stimulate through more spending, the economy ends up worse off, and voters punish you at the polls when they go to vote.
All I know is that if you and I aren't working at the same place the next recession, I'm going to be pissed, because we've been having this conversation
We've been having this theoretical
for several years.
Theoretical argument,
I
know.
And I really hope it happens in reality. All right, Rick, let's get down to brass tacks here. What is the Trumpometer score?
Sozzi, you want to do the honors?
No, go. This is your thing.
Go for it, man. You've never done it. Go ahead. Just press the red button. That's all you got to do. It's not going to blow up.
All right.
Oh boy.
Is this pre-programmed?
Well,
it's just magic.
Sometimes it works.
It's just magic. Failing.
There it is.
We're seeing very weak leadership.
That is the appropriate grade.
On the recession, the handling of the theoretical recession. We need a president who can stand up, take responsibility for what needs to be done, and do something positive.
Well, here comes a big 10% down day on Monday.
Because the failing Trumpometer. All right, Rick, I don't know if this factored into this week's Trumpometer score, but I mean, we got to talk about Greenland. What did you make when you saw those headlines?
I think Trump has been snookered here. I think he really should be thinking about Iceland, not Greenland. Isn't Greenland the icy one and Iceland is the green one?
That is correct.
I mean, he's never been to
golf
Greenland.
course wherever he wants.
But he's never been to Greenland, has he? But he did have that wonderful romantic moment with Vladimir Putin was that in Iceland?
It was in Finland.
Finland.
That was in Helsinki.
Oh, Finland's near Iceland. Is Finland for sale?
Finland is not for sale.
So he has.
By the way, countries are not for sale. That's not really like a thing. The number of people yesterday who came at me on Twitter and I was like, "This is stupid," who were like, "Well, everything's for sale." It's like, not everything's for sale. It's a nation. It's a sovereign. Like it's a territory controlled by Denmark. Denmark is a sovereign nation. You can't just buy stuff.
I think we need a new Greenland force in the military under the Pentagon to start looking at, perhaps we should have a military plan for Greenland. He probably was kept hearing about Epstein's private island, and he thought, I want a private island, but it has to be bigger than Epstein's. What's available? And so Greenland came to mind.
So he picks
Long Island would be good.
He picks Long Island.
Just saying.
He knows
maybe I'm
people. I
biased.
think he knows people there.
knows
Is
people
Long
there.
Island for sale?
It could
I
be.
mean, I think Long Island is probably one of the things. Some people were like, "Great, we will trade Long Island. We'll trade Long Island.
trade Jersey. Let it
back
have
to
We give
Denmark.
Denmark Long Island in exchange for Greenland?
Sure, people will do that. All right. Anything else, Rick?
There doesn't have to be because it's going to bubble. It'll be bubbling again next week.
All right. That's it. Rick Newman. Rick Newman. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your
It'll be
trip.
fresh chaos beginning next Monday.
Enjoy your trip up to Greenland this week. That I know
Scouting trip,
you were
yeah.
taking. Yep.
Yeah.